And we're live. This is Gavagai. I'm here with Trey Jadlow again, and tonight our discussion, kind of, I guess, what sparked it. Let me go ahead and I can screen share. Um, there we go. Was this post by Southern Skeptic, and it's a dollar bill, and replacing the "In God We Trust" motto, it says "In Allah We Trust." Newly redesigned dollar bill. It says, and then it says, if you're offended by this image, then you're beginning to understand the importance of the separation of church and state. So that's basically how this conversation got started. There's a link to that post in the description box if you want to get a look at it yourself, and see some of the conversations that ensued. But at any rate, Trey wanted to have a discussion with someone who I guess supported kind of that idea, and so I was nominated, I suppose.
Nominated
So
yourself.
sure, yeah. So Trey, do you wanna start off, or I mean, I didn't have anything really planned in a formal way or anything. So
Neither do I. I couldn't even remember the. I'm glad you put that post up because I forgot to look it up and even refresh my memory of what it was. Um, so the thing it sparked me is Southern Skeptic. I put that up, and he like puts up about 50 posts a day, it seems like, of just memes. And I wanted to challenge him, and he wasn't interested. So you were kind enough to say, "Hey, I'll do it." And so I wanted to talk about the whole concept of things like "In God We Trust" being on our dollar, why our founding fathers would do such a thing,
whoa,
and
whoa,
why.
whoa, whoa. The founding fathers didn't do anything like that. This was first introduced, and it was introduced as our national motto during the Red Scare in the 1950s. 1956 is when this motto replaced "E pluribus unum," which had been the national motto since the 1780s. Which was that was the era of the founding fathers, obviously, and their motto was this Latin, which means "from many, one." And then in the 1950s, they wanted to establish, this whole idea that we're not communists, and we are a nation that embraces religion, I suppose. And so they voted.
Hello.
This, the whole idea that this was from the founders, is kind of a myth.
Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to link "E pluribus unum" with "In God We Trust." I think that we're going to have differing perspectives on this, where you're going to say that the founding fathers were completely irreligious, and I'm going to make the case that the founding fathers were all, without one of them being counted out, they were all dedicated to religion, and it was for the purpose of "E pluribus unum," and it was manifested itself. In other words, "In God We Trust" is not incongruent with the founding fathers' paradigm of uh, "E pluribus unum" and what they were trying to promote in the doctrines that are outlined within our Constitution and in the Declaration. Let me ask you this. I had to turn down my resolution because my internet's chunking up again.
Sure.
Um, from your perspective, um, what is your understanding of the doctrine of separation of church and state? as it relates to our country.
I mean, I just think that it means that that is not the place of the government to endorse religious views or any religious institutions, or they're basically they are out of the game of religious ideas. It is their responsibility to allow it in any shape or form that it takes, so long as it's not, people's rights aren't being violated. But the practice and things
Okay.
have to be allowed. But the government has no ability to enforce or put in place anything related to religious teachings or doctrines or anything like that. They can't. That's not for the government to do.
Okay, where would
That's
they
my
get the idea
understanding
of
of
such a
it.
thing?
I would say which amendment is it? The First Amendment.
Yeah, I'm asking for the context of the First Amendment, not the First Amendment itself. Why would they do something like that?
Well, I mean, it was based on the the entanglements between church and state that had been corrupt in the past. So, I mean, a lot of people fled Europe because of this, and and there
Like
were
who?
the Puritans, for example.
And what were the Puritans?
What were the Puritans?
Hmm.
They were a group of kind of basically fundamentalist believers who were being persecuted by the Anglican Church, if I'm not mistaken, in England, and they fled. Now, when they came here, they instituted their own kind of theocratic government,
That's right.
and they engaged in persecution of other people that weren't Puritans. So
And they were supporting a somewhat of the state church as well. Is that correct?
the Puritans,
Yeah,
yes,
the Congregationalists and the Presbyterians.
right, but they wanted
Yeah,
it to be their brand, right? I mean,
right. So, so they, when they came over here, they were not necessarily all that tolerant. There was a context for placing this whole idea of separation of church and state. Um, there was some groundwork in the background there, but it really wasn't brought to the fore. And as you stated, there was not really a separation of church and state. In fact, we would move more toward a state. Um, a state-supported government, and I think Presbyterianism leads itself a little bit more towards that. Even Congregationalism, as I think the Westminster Confession gives a little bit of a nod to that, somewhat, especially as it came from the context um, of English and the British Presbyterianism, but. So they came over here, and there really was not such a thing as separation of church and state. Do you know what caused it to come to the fore
the issue of
and
separation.
and to become an issue whereby they instituted this as a part of our substantive doctrine as a country?
Well, I believe. I mean, I don't know if this is specifically the reason, and I don't know if there was one specific reason, but I know that some of the states in their constitutions originally, um, had a state-endorsed religion, and I think a number of the founding fathers, Jefferson, was one of the strong opponents of that kind of thing, and he was a proponent of putting in place this kind of restriction. And I think originally many of the colonies did have this state-endorsed religion within the colony.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. And so there was kind of a fight. I'm trying to remember the names now. I think there was a bit of a battle. There were of course, there were factions and all kinds of things. There kind of a faction between whether we should have state-supported church or this doctrine of strict separation of church and state. And the four principal guys, if I remember correctly, I think were Jefferson and Madison were against Washington and Adams, I want to say. I could be wrong about that. And ended up, if I were living at that time, I would have most passionately supported Washington and Adams, who were the You know, since the church gives a compelling organization to society that it needs to be supported. But in the long run, Jefferson and Madison's view won, which I am now looking back, I'm very glad for it, because I think the doctrine of separation of church and state is one of the glories of America, and is one of the things that allowed us to flourish as a country, and actually is the greatest secret thing that we have. And unfortunately, I think many Christians in the United States today don't understand it. And there's a lot of argumentation that's going back and forth over this doctrine, and people do not understand the historical context of it or the importance of it. And what I wanted to get, the context for Jefferson's view on his separation of church and state principally came from a guy named Roger Williams. And he was he established the first Baptist church in colonial America. And he was heavily persecuted when he came here. Now, I can't remember the context. He was his disciples, I can't think of his chief disciple over there in England. He was also, Francis Bacon it was Francis Bacon's arch rival, and I can't remember who he was. He was a lawyer, and Bacon actually was a lawyer as well. And they would fight back and forth about being king's men or to be free and stuff like that. And anyways, out of this, I mean, if you had religious, the thing that they were worried about in even continental European Christianity and on the British Isles as well, they were worried about keeping society in order. And so there was no doctrine of separation church-state. Indeed, there is not even now. I think that's one of the things that killed European Christianity, because it wouldn't change with the times. But so they had this thing. If you were causing trouble in church, it could literally, not often, but it could possibly cost your life. It could cause you to get your tongue split with a knife or your ears cut off. If you did something like that. They were very, very ruthless, because they saw it as a disintegration of society when you brought a different doctrine within religion. And so Roger Williams came with this whole concept of, I think it's called The Bloody Tenet, is a book that he wrote, promoting the idea of the separation of church and state. And he was heavily persecuted when he came to the United States. And when he came, he actually had to flee for his life, and he actually ended up fleeing to what is now Rhode Island, and he's the founder of Rhode Island. He is the founder of the American Baptist Church, which is actually a liberal denomination now. And he himself was kind of a quirky guy, had some quirky things about him as well. But anyway, it's the doctrine of the separation of church and state was established by a Christian and by the Christians, and it was not universally accepted, of course, and it was very controversial, but I thank God for the separation of church and state, because what it allows us to do is to have an idea where we're not forcing people to have religious beliefs. Christianity only works when it is done voluntarily, and once you start coercing it, you have something like, like you see the Catholicism maybe in Mexico and in Central America and South America, where the conquistadores went in there, and they forced the religion on the people, and certainly people say, oh yeah, if you're going to threaten my life, I'll become a Christian or whatever, and they just become, outwardly whatever they need to do, and then keep their pagan whatever it is underneath. So the glory of America, I think, in many ways, is this doctrine of separation of church and state. But what I want to talk about is the the perspective of the founding fathers, and the whole idea of e pluribus unum and the one out of many, and how this is really formative, and it is the fabric of our society. And now that we're losing it, I believe that we will move more and more toward disintegration. So what we've got is all of the founding fathers. Some of them were deists and considered themselves not religion in a sort of a I think of Thomas Paine comes to mind. He hated organized religion, but
Thomas Paine
every
was
single
an
one.
atheist.
He was not. No, he wasn't. I would like you to find that and source that for me, please. There's not one. Let me tell you this. Not one of the founding fathers were atheists, and there's a reason for that. And this is my whole beef with the chintzy, childish and churlish new atheists who spout off about what they don't understand.
Have you read Common Sense?
Yes, I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read quotes from Thomas Paine that very clearly show that he was not an atheist. And you can show me up. I mean, you can look it up and you can show me to be wrong, but I'm confident that you will not. Every single one of the founding fathers. Are you familiar with the Declaration of Independence?
Yes.
The preamble. The preamble says, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
Right. Yeah.
There
were many of them that were very religious, and some of them that were religious in the sense that they believed that there was a creator or a creator God. But there were several key founders who were deists, and some that were just kind of had their own thing going. I mean, Thomas Jefferson's religious beliefs were certainly not Orthodox Christian, although he did hold the Bible in high regard. He basically went through and deleted anything or crossed out, edited the Bible to eliminate any miracles because he didn't believe that miracles were possible. And Ben Franklin was also, obviously very influential, and he was a deist.
That's right. So what I want to establish is that every single one of the founding fathers considered it essential that they be a theist. And do you know why that is?
Because they didn't understand science or
no,
didn't have Darwin's theory, and there's a whole lot that we've learned
Darwin's
since
theory
that
is
time.
Stupid. I don't want to get into that, but
18th century that.
Okay, well, let me just, Gavagai, what do you know about unity and diversity in the history of philosophy in Western culture?
Were pretty radical for their time, for sure.
No, I'm saying the concept of unity and diversity. Do you have any idea? Do you know anything about Western philosophy and how that plays in the way philosophy has been done in the past 2.5 millennia?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
It's kind of cutting out. I hope we don't have trouble here. The greatest question of Western philosophy has always been how to make unity out of diversity. Are you familiar with that?
No, and who says that?
Everybody says it.
No.
I mean, it started with Heraclitus and Parmenides, the pre-Socratics.
But
that, you can argue that, but
say it again.
Okay.
The greatest question in philosophy.
The greatest question of Western philosophy is how to bring unity out of diversity. That's why our motto was E pluribus unum, out of many, one.
That's nonsense. I mean, you can say, I mean, E pluribus unum is a fantastic idea in principle, but to say that this is the greatest question in Western philosophy, I think is complete nonsense, because unity. Would you?
I'm sorry, Gavagai. My stupid internet is cutting out. I didn't hear anything you said.
I'll say it again.
Okay.
In my mind, at least, I would say that there's no way that I would sacrifice truth for unity. I wouldn't cut corners and ignore things that I thought were true just to bring about some kind of unity or harmony or something, right?
You don't understand what I'm saying. You're not even on the same page as me. I'm not talking about unity of people or anything like that. I'm talking about how do we make coherence out of diversity. In other words, we got all these different bits, everything, everywhere. E pluribus unum. I'm not saying that it was a philosophical concept that is when you go to university, Do you know what those two words mean? You're going to make unity out of diversity. You're getting law and astronomy and mathematics and psychology, and you're taking all these things and you're making a unified whole. You're making unity out of diversity. And it basically means coherence. In fact, when you talk about truth, that's exactly what I'm saying. We are looking for truth. We're looking for coherence. We're looking for things to be able to make sense and to work together as a whole. So that's the greatest question of philosophy. It always has been. So
that concept is not something that I've had exposure to, at least in those terms, and so I would have to say I would at least have to give that more consideration and look into the idea more. Right.
Okay. Well, you can check it out all you want. It's not up to dispute any way whatsoever. I mean, it was life, motion, being, unity, and diversity. These are the greatest things. But unity out of diversity. How do you make a coherence out of all of these things that are all together? What is it that brings everything together and makes sense out of everything? And so the founding fathers held adamantly to theism, because, as is stated in the preamble to the Declaration, that there are no such things as human rights, and there is no such thing as intrinsic value unless there is a God.
Well,
does that make sense?
For one thing, we can disagree with that, and we can say they were wrong, right?
But you need to demonstrate how they were wrong.
Right. Well, because there's no reason to believe that there is a deity.
Well, certainly there is, and I have demonstrated it more times than can be counted. But I'm asking you, how? All right. So the burden is now on you to show intrinsic value without God. Can you do it?
Trey.
Yeah, can you do it? Can you demonstrate intrinsic human value without God?
It doesn't have to be intrinsic.
So you can't.
Well, I don't know that I can't. But why is it necessary that it's intrinsic? Why can't we just say, okay, we value it, and because we value it.
Yeah, but then you can't say there's no unity out of diversity there. You cannot say that there's such a thing as a. Pardon me?
So what? Maybe there's not unity.
This is a deep level of thinking that I find with the atheists that shocks my mind, that you guys are so shallow that you don't even care to think about it. And I'm not attacking you personally, but it's rather frustrating the sophomoric level of this kind of thinking.
Oh, come on now, let's not get into name calling.
No, I'm not calling you name, but I am expressing some frustration.
No, well, but that's fine. But you can do that without calling my views sophomoric.
They are utterly sophomoric. I'm not calling you sophomoric. I think you're a thoughtful and kind person.
I understand that, but I just think you're poisoning the well there. You are making assertions that these things are necessary in order for us to even move forward, but you haven't demonstrated that.
No. I am saying they're necessary to have a reason to move forward. Now, you can copycat off the Christians all you want and pretend there's no God, but act like there is, and you'll have coherence in society, but you won't have a reason for it, and eventually it will unravel. This was the whole purpose of them.
Isn't just order and justice reason enough? I mean, that's a reasonable.
That's not a reason.
That's absolutely.
No, you're emoting right now. You're saying you personally like justice, you personally like order, but you're not giving a reason for it. And emotion is not a good foundation.
It's not emotion. It is a rational foundation saying, I understand that when I am living in a society where I am not falsely accused, where if I am falsely accused, I have a chance to stand before a judge and a jury and plead my case before I'm punished. I understand that when most people abide by laws and that we have a say in the writing of those laws, all of these things are and they were all not only is it reasonable, but these ideas were birthed not out of religion, but out of reason and the Enlightenment era, when people began to question religion. Before the
Oh,
Enlightenment, all we had was the religious texts,
okay,
and everybody was abiding by those texts, and there was none of this.
okay, Gavagai, listen. You are you're not realizing you're doing this, but you're presupposing the objective sanctity of existence without giving a reason for it. You need to give a reason for it. You can't just, you're doing the Sam Harris fallacy. I've named a fallacy after Dr. Harris. It's called the Sam
Well,
Harris fallacy. It's
it's
capitulate
not
from giving
fallacious.
fallacy.
It is personal. It is perfectly
But you,
reasonable.
then go ahead and demonstrate. You haven't done that yet.
I have given you the reason because it is
No,
beneficial
you have
to myself.
presupposed.
That's
Listen,
not
my friend, you have
presupposing anything.
presupposed. You're presupposing the sanctity of existence, are you not?
No, absolutely not.
Then why are
I'm
you
simply
saying
saying it is reasonable. It is a biological desire that I have that is intrinsic to my being because
that's right?
of evolution,
Right.
and
Which has no purpose. But you're saying there is a purpose in its existence,
I
right?
give it purpose.
Right, right. So there is a purpose, right?
I'm a conscious being. I can look around and say I desire these things.
That is
That's
programmed
purpose.
with purpose, right?
I have intrinsic desires that are just the product of evolution.
But evolution
I
is
mean,
not
I have the
purposive,
desire
right?
to eat. I don't need.
Hello? Hello?
It often exceeds what is good for me, and so I have to also put into place practices that are rational and are there to put in check those desires. So
Okay,
biology
I probably
alone is not all there is.
okay. I missed most of that, but I don't. I think it's okay. Um,
That's
so
too bad. It was
you
brilliant.
yourself. Well, I can listen to it when I go back and listen to it. You as a being are a purposive being that values things. Is that correct?
I'm. I don't even that term purposive is
Purpose
strange to
toward the
me.
goal of existence.
Yeah, I have. Well, existence is not my only goal, and it is not the highest goal that I have.
Indeed, it is, and the only reason you would give up is
You
because you
can't
think
tell
there's
me
no
that
hope.
it is. You can't tell me what
Okay,
my highest goal is.
okay. Tell me what your highest goal is. Then.
I mean, that is up there. It's certainly among the highest
Tell me the
goals.
highest goal that you have.
I would say that a comfortable and happy existence is higher
You just conceded.
than mere existence. No, it's not mere
Well,
existence.
that's
If I was being, if so, for example, if I understood that the rest of my existence was going to be a long and painful and unfulfilling existence, existence would fall very quickly to something that is
okay.
not desirable at all.
Well, when I say existence, I'm talking about full existence. Like Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and have it abundantly. I'm talking about abundant existence. That's your highest goal, right?
Well, I mean, yes.
Everything in your life centers around that, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. No, not necessarily.
Okay,
I
then
mean,
what else?
I mean, there are a lot of things that I desire. Just like I sit around and fiddle with Rubik's cubes, or 3D 3x3 puzzles and 2x2 puzzle cubes and things, just because it interests me. But it's not like something that's fulfillment in any sense, I suppose.
Well, sure it is. That's why you're doing it.
No. I mean, it's a thing to occupy my mind while I'm waiting for things. I mean, I sleep because I know that I need to, but I hate sleep. I mean, I hate the fact that I have to sleep. So that, to me, is something that I do out of sheer, concern for my own health, I suppose. But
For
if I could get
existence.
away without sleeping, I most certainly would, because I think it's a big waste of my life.
Okay, so anyway, I want to try to bring this back to our original point because I could just go off on this. All right, so the purpose of government is to protect existence. Would you agree with that?
No,
Okay, what is the purpose of government?
because there are many times that the government does things that are against existence, and
For what goal?
uh, well, I mean, I mean, we're talking about the ideal purpose for government, is what you're talking about, yes?
Yes. What
And
it's for?
so
What's the purpose?
the purpose is to protect the citizens' rights,
Right.
so that they can pursue happiness.
That's right.
Um,
It's to protect existence, right? Remember, I said existence is full
but
existence.
happiness, again, happiness is not equal with existence.
I
There are
said
times
existence
when,
equals full existence. Happiness,
well,
happy
so now,
existence is what I'm talking
but
about.
that's not the same thing. That's not the same
Well,
thing.
listen, Gavagai,
And
I qualified my terms 5 minutes ago. I
yeah,
said when I speak of
but I think,
existence, I'm using the term in a specific way.
but yeah, but you're smuggling this concept in that's not there in without this addition to it.
I gave the addition. I'm saying that's what the word means. When I talk about existence, I'm
No,
talking about full life.
no, because that's deceptive. And
No, it's not because I'm
existence
telling
is
you what
not
I
the
mean by
bottom
the
line.
word.
Happiness and fulfillment is the bottom line. Existence is
Okay, that's fine. Let's call it fulfillment. Okay, but it's rooted in existence. I think you're trying to scratch your way out of this thing.
I'm not
That's fine.
scratching my
I'll
way
use your
out of
word.
anything. I'm just trying to be accurate.
Okay. All right. That's fine. All right. So the government's job is what was the word you used?
To defend
Uh,
and protect
Happiness or
rights, so that people are allowed and permitted to pursue happiness.
okay. All right. So um, now, is it? Are you familiar with the purpose of Greek and Roman mythology? What the whole groundwork was for that? Why they had such a goofy thing like that?
Um, I mean, there are a lot of reasons that Greek and Roman mythology existed. I mean, it just was like any religion. It existed because people wanted answers to questions about the universe and the world that
Uh-huh.
they lived in.
Yeah, it was meta narrative. It was to give them a big picture purpose for living and to kind of unify the diversity of society under a common goal.
Well, that's
Um,
one of the side effects, but I don't. I think you're hard pressed to say that this was the uh, kind of behind the initial introduction of it. You
I'm saying
have to
that's what they.
demonstrate that.
Well, the people who believed in Greek mythology. I mean, look it up. I mean, the purpose was to give the people. It was unity and diversity. Again, this only in the smarter than everybody else in the room atheists don't understand this today. So we're living in a time of incredible irrationality,
Okay,
and it's
I'll
I'm
tell you
not
what. Source it.
source what.
Source your claim. Where do you find this being claimed in the literature of the time?
Hold on, let me see if I
I
can.
mean, if you're
I'm
going to
not sure if
say,
I.
if you're going to go ahead and say this is the reason that this was developed, then you need to provide some kind of substantiation for that claim. Otherwise, you're making claims that aren't supported by anything.
I can't do it. Well, I've got the link here to screen share, but it won't let me screen share on this level, and I
Put
don't
it
have them
put it
now.
in the put it in the chat, and I will
Okay.
screen share it.
Okay. Hold on just a minute. There we go. Okay.
You have put
Oh,
in
I'm sorry.
the Hangout
Grabbed the
link.
wrong one. I apologize.
That's okay.
Uh-huh. No, what's the deal here? Hold on. I was copying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Can you pick it? There's the PBS one.
I see it. Hang on, let me swap out my links. Okay. All right, so let's see. Let me see if I can blow it up a bit. Did I? Okay, there we go. Share. Present.
I'm trying to find a point. Well, I thought this was the one that I had.
The quote at the top of it is, "God made man because he liked to hear a story. So say the Africans, and the rich variety of worldwide mythology proves that God chose wisely."
No. Myths answer timeless questions and serve as a compass to each generation. Let's see. No, it was a PBS Mythology one, and that's not it. I apologize.
That's okay. Yeah, but I mean, this seems to validate what, my position, that they're used to answer questions. They're used to entertain, but I think, and in some cases to teach. There are certainly in virtually every culture, there are myths that have ethics and morality, moral narratives, included in them. But then there are a lot that of the stories where what's happening in mythology is terribly horrific and things. I mean, Saturn eating his son, and there are things that are certainly people sleeping with their mothers. So there's bad and good mixed in with it all. But you have origin myths in just about every single one of them, because people had questions, and maybe they started off just by some kid asking his parents, well, where did we come from? And kind of everybody wanted an answer, so they made stuff up or told what their parents told them, and then eventually it gets written down.
Well, the function that the mythology had, though, was to unify the diversity of society, to get everybody on the same page. That's why one of the reasons why the Christians were so ostracized, because they were not going along with the unified diversity. Remember, I talked about in 17th century Europe, the same thing.
Broken up again. You broke up again.
Oh, I'm sorry. So in the 17th century, we have even in Europe, if you came up with different religious ideas, you could be severely persecuted. It's because people were worried about the matrix that held the fabric of society together was being destroyed, and they understood that once you have no meta-narrative or a coherent meta-narrative, you have diversity without unity. I think it's Ben Franklin that said, if we do not all hang together, we will inevitably hang individually. And what happens is, well, can you imagine a football team trying to play football without a game plan and without a coach? What would happen to that team? They would be destroyed, right?
You broke up again. I heard, can I imagine a football team, and then it broke off.
Okay, imagine a football team that has no coach and that has no game plan, and they try to go play a game, what's going to happen to them? They're going to get slaughtered because they had no meta-narrative, something to guide them as a whole, unified, to go together. This is why
you don't need a meta narrative to win a football game. You need a plan. No, you don't. You need
that's what the game plan is. It's the meta narrative.
No, it's not. It's not meta. It's simply based on. I mean, this is what is happening in the game. That's the opposite of meta. This is the reality. Then there's no narrative. There's no underlying narrative about some mythology about how pigs became a ball and.
No. I'm making an analogy between a game and society. You've got to have unity and diversity. Do you agree with that?
Well, it certainly helps to help the society cohere. Yes, but you don't. Okay. Again, I don't think that you need this kind of magical, mythical stuff going on. You can have a narrative that's based in real history. You can have a narrative that is based in reason and say these are the reasons we have these laws. And
what's your reason though? You haven't, Gavagai, you haven't given any reason whatsoever. You've emoted about how you personally like life, but you have not given a reason for the sanctity of existence. This is my problem with atheism. It's one half of a worldview.
No, it's not. It's not. And I haven't emoted. You're poisoning the well. Is it or is it not rational to
value that which is invaluable, human life?
To value your own life.
Which is intrinsically invaluable. Can you not get that?
No, because
why can't you see
it's
that?
intrinsic.
It's so
because you're asserting something that is not based on anything. It's valuable to me because I have a biological desire, just like the animals. I mean, is a cow's life intrinsically valuable?
Why does a cow programmed a lie? This is my question.
Why what?
Why is a cow programmed to act as if life is valuable when it's really invaluable? It's useless. It's like a dead twig in the backyard, according to your worldview.
It's programmed that way by biology, by evolution.
Biology does not have value.
Biology, the evolutionary process would favor. Let's put it this way: if I have two individuals who are reproducing in a population, and one of them has an intrinsic desire to live, just because of its biological chemistry, and the other one does not have an interest in living, which one of those is more likely to survive long enough to produce offspring?
You are saying exactly nothing there. You're sitting there, you're just telling me this is how the system works, but you're not giving me a reason why there is value when there is no value.
It's what we desire because of our biology.
I know. You give me this magic.
Because those people and those individuals who did not have that desire were weeded out of the population because they're less likely to survive.
You're just giving me a narrative. You're not giving me a reason.
That's the reason we have that
desire. We value that. What is the reason that we value that which is intrinsically invaluable? It's an oxymoron.
It's not. I mean. It's the reason is. I mean, this is you're asking like, well, why does water desire to flow to the ocean?
I'm not talking about water. I'm talking about Gavagai.
No, but the question that you're asking is as inane as asking why does water desire? Why does water value going to the ocean?
You're obfuscating. And that is not true. You are categorizing two things which are completely different. Water is not personal.
You're putting that into this other category. You're separating them when they're both just the way things are based on reality. This is the way it has happened.
Listen, my friend, you're arguing the exact opposite of what you're doing right now. You're saying there's no such thing as value, but you're valuing with passion right now
I'm not
the
saying
argument that
there's no
there's no
such thing as
value.
value. I'm not saying that at all.
Oh, so
We
you are
absolutely
valuable.
value things.
So we value the invaluable?
What do you mean by invaluable?
Our lives are not intrinsically valuable, right?
To the universe? To other animals?
In the big
What,
picture, nothing matters,
in the big
right?
picture? I mean, no, it matters because we make it matter. We have that
Okay,
desire.
why are we worried about that which is worthless? You've got to justify
It's
that.
not worthless. It's worthless. It's worth something to us. Just like
Why?
there's no. Is there any value in a piece of paper that has a number 1 and a picture of George Washington on it?
No, because paper
It's
does not
only
have
valuable.
personhood
It's only valuable
to the
because
person.
we make it have value. The
That's
paper,
right.
the ink, none of that has value.
So there's no value without personhood, right?
There's Well, I mean, there's value when we are persons and we value things.
Okay,
I mean,
so personhood is intrinsically related to value, right?
no, well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by personhood, but I mean, I would say that when you have consciousness and when you have kind of inborn biological desires and things, value comes about.
Comes about. What do you mean?
I mean, that's what happens. That is the
Is value
result.
chosen by necessary definition?
Value, no, we don't. I mean, we don't choose what we value
Value
necessarily.
is choice, right?
No,
You value something, you choose to say this is important, right?
I don't know. It's not a choice. I didn't choose that I wanted to, desire food. That's the way I was born. I don't
Oh, so
choose.
so you were accidentally made to value things.
Well, it's not an accident either. It's based on those things that were beneficial for survival.
Okay, well then you have the value of survival again.
No, it's not.
Survival is a goal.
It's a goal
Like,
because
can you not see
having
how
that goal.
stupid Darwinian evolution is?
No, I mean,
Oh my
that's what
God.
happens. You admitted it yourself that when you have two individuals and one
Hmm.
of them desires to live and the other one doesn't have that desire, the
Hmm.
one that has the desire to live is more likely to succeed in terms of biology by passing on its genes. Is that not
Yes.
true?
No,
That
I
is true.
happily concede that. But I'm asking
Okay.
you to show me why. That you're just giving me a narrative. You're not giving me a reason. You're saying it happens because it happens. I'm saying
That's
why?
why we have those desires because the ones
Because
who didn't.
existence is special.
No, I mean it just. I don't know why you're laughing. You're not making any sense at all. You just don't. Trey, I, I hold you in some degree of respect just for the fact that you're willing to come on here. Um, there are a lot of people who won't, but you you have admitted that you have, I guess a high school level of education, and then whatever you've studied just on your own independently beyond that.
A little bit of
I would
college.
say you really need to delve into some of these.
Hello. Hello.
Is
Hello. You know what,
and
Gavagai? I missed everything you said after you said delve. I'm sorry.
hang on, let me get a swig of water. My mouth is drying out.
Sure.
Uh, I was saying that you really need to delve into subjects beyond what you have already done. Um, Look into the theory of evolution, and come to at least um understand exactly what it is, because I don't think that you have that understanding fully. And
I
this,
don't think that you have rebutted me, is what I don't think. That's my problem.
Well,
Don't tell me to go read a book. Answer my arguments.
I, I, I have. You haven't made an argument. You've just
Well,
said that
indeed I have. I'm saying, how can you justify value when there is no such thing as real value?
there's real value is what we desire.
Okay, but we as contingents are personal beings placing will and volition upon other things, right? In other words, choosing by way of our volition.
Sure, if that's how you want to say, make describe choice, I suppose. Go ahead.
Okay, so we as beings have this capacity to value things, but we arose out of non-value. In other words, non-value purposed to make us as purposers. Does that make sense?
No, that doesn't make sense.
That's exactly right. That's my
You
point.
are injecting the idea of purpose and value into the
You're the one injecting
process.
it. You said it exists,
I said it
right?
exists because it exists within us, and it has arisen from one
Unintentionally, right?
from biology, and there's no intentionality
Unintentionally.
there.
That's right. Unintentionality gave rise to intentionality, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So you just violated the law of identity.
That's not the no, because there's a period of there's time, and so let's look at it this way. When you were born, what did you intend to do with your life? Like the moment that uh, you know came out of your mother's womb, what was
Well,
your purpose to do?
my sentience was not developed at that point.
Right, exactly. And so you didn't have purpose apart from what other people gave you at that point. But then as you developed and you became a conscious thinking and educated person to the extent that that has happened, you have grown up and pursued a career in, I guess, dentistry, right?
I'm a dental technician.
Okay. And I mean that is the purpose that you have given yourself. And so from this period of your life when you didn't have purpose that you had self-identified, you developed through time, through growth, through education, through desires and interests that you had, you established your own purpose, and that's the way it happens. Now you have taken on ideas and concepts from your culture and your social groups and things like that, and we all do that, and that helps to inform the purpose that you've determined ultimately. But if you chose, I mean, if you became
Hello? Hello?
and repurpose yourself.
Okay, I missed that last part you said, but listen, so um, do you have purpose? All right, human beings. You say I say when I was born I didn't have sentience that was developed and I had to develop it, and and I added to it and all that stuff. Do trees purpose things like I do?
No.
Okay, so the reason I was able to grow up and to be a sentient creature and have purpose and stuff like that is because that's what kind of creature I am, right?
Yes, but I would say that there are other creatures that have some level of sentience that approaches, though we have very clearly something that is unique in humanity that is not present in dolphins and chimpanzees and dogs and cats and things. But they have a consciousness. They have desires. They have values and things that are there, and they even have their own kind of simple codes of ethics and things in their societies when they are, in social animals. So I think we have this one aspect kind of in abundance where some of the other animals have them to lesser degrees, but I think it's there.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say that the difference between a tree and an aardvark are the difference between purpose and no purpose. The difference between an aardvark and a human is on that level there is no difference except in level. So some creatures have purpose, and in order for that to come about unintentionally, you must, by definition, violate the law of identity. You must say that unintentionality is intentionality at some point, and you can't do that. Does that make sense? Are we cut off again? Hello?
You broke off there
Hello?
for a good minute or so. I'm back.
Oh.
I hear you now.
You know what? I think we're going to have to wrap it up because I can only hear about half of what you're saying, and I think I'm going to have to spring some from better internet connection here at home.
Okay.
It's my fault.
That's too bad. I'm sorry.
I apologize for that. Well, and we never really got around to the point that I wanted to make, though, regarding the Founding Fathers and the importance of meta-narrative. But we'll do it again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I just want to. Can I say something quickly about Fox and the No and atheistic potato?
Sure.
I'm getting kind of snarky with them because I'm a little frustrated. Fox and the No, I had a hangout, and he starts blowing and going about how he's taking me apart and all this stuff, and how I'm just child's play and all this stuff. But he talks really big when he's not in my presence, and so I got a little irritated with him when he wants to, hey, come and watch our hangout and come and do our thing like that. And I'm like, no, I don't even want to watch your hangout because I know atheistic potato doesn't have anything to say, at least what I've seen from him. And what's the other guy? Mischievous Heathen. He's a nice guy, but he doesn't really understand the arguments either. I'm not nothing against him or anything like that. So I'm a little snarky with him, and I'm happy to do Fox and the No. I'd like to have a one-on-one with him again because I think he's just searching for Hollywood, and I'm not interested in that. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, and I don't know if they're going to watch this or not, but I'm happy to do one with Fox and the No again, but I'm not interested in playing little games they want to do with that. If you're gonna, I'm happy to talk smack and to have people talk smack about me, but come to my face and deal with the issues if you're gonna do it.
I'm sure they'll see this and they can address you on their own on that issue.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate the time, Gavagai. We'll get together again soon. Right. Maybe we can pick up this thing where we left off and finish it. I'm gonna look in tomorrow and see how much it cost. I just cut my internet down because it was so cheap. I got a good deal, but it's not worth it, I guess.
They'll get you every time. The thing that I hate is when they'll bump you up, after your period of the introductory price ends, and then bumping up to the next level. You're paying less or whatever, but they keep kind of bumping you up like that, so you're slowly, incrementally stepping up the whole time. Drives me absolutely nuts. They're criminals.
You just got to watch them. I mean, you just got to watch them whatever they want to do. So anyway, hey, can I ask you what is your icon? What is that picture?
That is a Neuralagus Rex, which is kind of an artist rendition from what scientists say is a prehistoric rabbit.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, and it kind of ties in with my Gavagai kind of theme and science and things too. So that's why I've adopted it.
Okay. Cool. Just wanted to know. All right. Well, I guess we'll be talking then.
Okay. Take care, Trey.
All right, thanks, Gavagai. All right, we'll see you.